When will we stop acting like homosexuality was praised in Africa before invaders came? Because it was not. If it came out that you were committing homosexual acts, you were either killed or exiled. The rise of homosexuality started with Arab traders coming into Africa. In Uganda, they called them Akulia Ebiziagi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But anyway, homosexuality in Africa was also associated with the rise of prisons, which was a result of European colonialism. Before colonizers came, prison was not a thing in Africa. In Africa, the focus was reconciliation and mending good relations. It always confused me how European boy lovers brought homophobia to Africa. We talking about the same people who took our men to butt-breaking camps because they said that was the only way they could get a man to submit to them, which is very homosexual. We gotta stop this BS and look at the history before Arab traders and European colonizers came. Otherwise, of course, you will run into the love of homosexuality.
Research over me search. Prior to European colonization, throughout the African continent, we see far different, more relaxed attitudes towards sexual orientation and gender identity. As far back as 2400 BC, 2400 BC. Before European and Arab invasion, colonization, all that right there. As far back as 2400 BC, tombs have been excavated in ancient Egypt with two men's bodies embracing each other as lovers. In addition to their acceptance of the same-sex relationship, ancient Egyptians, similar to other civilizations at the time, not only acknowledged a third gender, but venerated. Oh, but they're gonna say, man, you only talking about Egypt though, huh? I ain't talking about them Egyptologists. I got you. Facts over feelings in this book called Male Daughters and Female Husbands about gender and sex in African society. You know, it's talking about some things. When you dig deep, you'll see that female husbandry is one of the oldest queer practices found in over 40 cultures in Africa, in both ancient and contemporary Africa, which is wealthy and powerful and influential women who marry other women. During the pre-colonial times among the Langi people of northern Uganda, effeminate males known as Mudako Dako were treated as women and could marry men. Pre-colonial times. In the Nubeli and the Shano tribe in Zimbabwe, Nupe in Nigeria, Azande in Sudan and Congo, Tutsi in Rwanda and Burundi, it is believed that same-sex acts possess spiritual benefits. Androgyny. In Egypt, goddesses such as Mut, goddess of motherhood, and Segment, goddess of war, are often depicted as women with penises. In a whole bunch of countries in Africa, like Angola and Namibia, and a whole bunch of countries I can't pronounce, a caste of male diviners are believed to carry a powerful female spirit they would pass on to fellow male through intimate relations. Let's leave these folks alone and stop trying to use Hotepian Hebrew type ideology to try to push them out. I could keep on going on about male daughters and everything like this, but it just shows how some people be so lost in the sauce in European constructs, and you be thinking that you really woke and you put people on game, but you really not. And I'll take on that debate any day too. Let me know. I got time.
Comedian Aries Spears was recently asked about Lizzo's talent in an interview. But rather than praising this beautiful black woman for the fact that she can sing, dance, and play the fucking flute simultaneously, he decided to say this.
Her, yo, like as a songwriter, yo.
I can't get past the fact that she looks like an emoji. She's got a very pretty face, but she keeps showing her body on. Like, come on, man.
A lot of women are pointing out the irony that a man who looks like he bites would dare bash a woman whose ass he couldn't even sniff. Even if he was attractive, I'd have the same energy because I'm tired of people, number one, dehumanizing plus-size women for absolutely no fucking reason, and number two, passing off unprovoked hatred as comedy. And it's his response to the backlash that really took me the fuck out.
Listen, I know I'm trending right now because of the Lizzo joke. And I just want to say, man, a lot of you women are funny. I ain't funny. I'm 32 years in this game and I ain't never got no meow. That's hilarious. Y'all don't deal in logic and sense. You deal in emotion and anger.
So let me get this straight, Mr. Mucinex. You can make jokes randomly attacking a woman who has done nothing to you but exist, and it's comedy. But when women respond with jokes reminding you that you should avoid body or appearance shaming, being as though, number one, it's a terrible thing to do, and number two, you should kneel at the altar if Lizzo farted in your direction, being as though you have a face that only a daddy could leave, then we're emotional and angry. What happened? I thought everybody was joking.
What's good? I hope everybody black is having an amazing day. It's time for more black ass history. Today's topic is Jenga. First of all, the word Jenga derives from the Swahili word kujenga, which means to build. Jenga is a game with wooden blocks stacked in alternating directions. Each player takes a turn removing the block and placing it back on top until the structure collapses. The alleged creator of the game is a white woman named Leslie Scott. Her parents were European colonizers, so she was born in Tanzania and raised in Kenya. Swahili was their second language. In the 1970s, the family moved to the port city of Takoradi, Ghana. Now, she claims her and her family made up the game, but there is hella proof that this is a traditional game from Ghana called Takoradi blocks. In the traditional Takoradi game, each player would take turns removing the block and keep it. When the structure finally collapsed, the player with the most blocks was the winner. Leslie's game is just a modified version of this. She recalls first playing this game with a wooden block set that was gifted to her little brother in Ghana. Wood, timber, lumber, whatever you want to call it, is one of Ghana's main exports. Jenga blocks are a miniature version of the much larger blocks of timber found in the African forests that were chopped for export. At the ports, they will often stack the wood in alternating directions to promote airflow between the planks and keep them dry. Jenga also draws aesthetic inspiration from Dogon architecture, mainly found in Mali, West Africa. The Dogon used dry stone masonry, and their structures included small rectangular openings throughout. These rectangular compartments are known as wind catchers, and they were used for storing goods and keeping them dry. Since the release of the game in the 1970s, Leslie Scott's net worth is in the tens of millions of dollars. She's even been named one of the top 10 game inventors in the world, selling over 60 million units to date. So next time you see a Jenga game going on, knock all that shit over.
The trans girl walk in the room, you know the heads turn because they got the body, they doing it. The first thing you'll see a cisgender woman say is, oh, that used to be a man. And you say to yourself, well, why the hell did you need to tell that? The only reason you needed to tell that because that's your weapon or that's your way of taking her down 2 or 3 notches. But what they don't realize, her having a pussy don't make, I hate to use the word pussy, but a pussy don't make you a woman. A pussy just make you female. My dog got a pussy. Is she a woman? A pussy don't make you a woman. Being about your business is what makes you a woman. And a lot of these girls about their business, they doing what they gotta do. So we can't get mad.
Black people have always created the future. We created jazz, we created hip hop, we created rock and roll, we created all these things. And there are people who believe that we don't see ourselves in the future, but we have always seen ourselves in the future, whether it's Octavia Butler or Sam Delaney or any of these people. My husband said to our studio executive who told us that black people don't see themselves in the future, so they wouldn't like science fiction. And he said, no, that's not true. You're not absolutely wrong. Will Smith is the #1 science fiction star in the world. But also he said, for blacks, the past is painful, the present precarious, but the future is free. We always see ourselves in the future. Your future that you're living in is because black people imagined it. And he said, you're welcome.
I know that's right.
You're welcome.
Well, I just want to tell you, it has been an absolute pleasure, honor. I mean, we feel privileged just to be in your company, so thank you.
Back at you, girl. Congratulations for everything. My love, QTV, love it.
Have you ever heard of the Milgram experiment? The Milgram experiment was a psychological experiment conducted by Stanley Milgram, a psychologist at Yale University in 1963. This is the ad that he put in the newspaper, looking for everyday Americans to participate in his study. Participants were told that the experiment focused on the relationship between punishment, learning, and memory. Once a participant arrived at the facility, the experimenter introduced them to a second individual, explaining that the second individual was participating in the study as well. They were told that they would each be randomly assigned roles of teacher or learner. One person, the teacher, is in a room with the experimenter, and the other person, the learner, is in the next room over and is strapped into an electric chair of some sort. The teacher calls out a list of words over an intercom: blue bird, high tower, morning sunrise, and the learner is supposed to try to memorize them. Once the list is done being read, the teacher is supposed to test the learner's memory. Here's where things get interesting. Let's say that the learner misremembers a word. Instead of blue bird, they say blue sky. In that case, the teacher was instructed to push a button that would administer an electric shock to the learner in the next room. With every wrong answer, the voltage increases in strength, going all the way up to 450 volts. Now, 15 volts isn't that bad, but once the voltage started getting up to, 100, 115, 130, the learner in the other room started verbally expressing discomfort, and the walls were so thin that the teacher could hear it. With every wrong answer, the screams get louder and louder, and the teacher starts feeling bad about the fact that they're inflicting pain on someone. They would look back at the experimenter, but the experimenter kept telling them, continue with the experiment, continue with the experiment. Once the voltage got up to 330 volts, the learner stopped responding altogether. But an unresponsive subject didn't stop this experiment. The experimenter kept telling the teacher, continue with the experiment, continue with the experiment. The experiment didn't stop until the teacher literally refused to push the button or until the voltage machine went up to its max, which was 450 volts. Once the experiment was over, that's when the teacher learned the truth about the study that they were participating in. The experimenter and the learner were just actors. The shocks weren't real, and neither were the screams. The actual experiment wasn't about learning and memory. It was about obedience and authority. Stanley Milgram wanted to see if the average American would be willing to ignore their morals to do what they were told. 2/3 of the participants were willing to inflict pain on another American just because an authority figure told them to. So the next time that your boss, professor, or parent tells you to do something and then looks at you crazy when you ask them why, ask them this.
On the 4th of July, the beautiful Leslie Jones, like many other Americans, voiced that she didn't feel like there was anything to celebrate. Let me play a clip of what she said.
So it's hard for me to say happy 4th of July because it feels like we're going back to slavery, so maybe I should say happy back to slavery day. Because if we don't do something, there will be no Independence Day for anyone.
Now let me play you this woman's response, the mother of 3 black girls.
I'm going to do everything in my power not to talk about Leslie Jones's looks in this, but you do whatever makes you feel good. Please make it make sense for me.
Jason, where else, if not America, can you resemble Grape Ape and have the success that Leslie Jones has had? Look, and we're not picking on black women.
When I tell y'all that I went to sleep mad, slept on it, woke up, and I was still pissed off, look at how beautiful Leslie Jones is. And then when I saw that Shamika Michelle had 3 very black girls of her own that looked like they could be easily related to Leslie Jones, I was confused. Listen to what else she had to say.
Stop the lies, Leslie, because there are people, children, looking up to you that aren't the cutest, aren't the brightest, aren't the funniest.
So here her self-hating behind is talking about Leslie Jones looking like Grape Ape and children looking up to her, and these are her kids. This is her family. And make no mistake, she has a beautiful family. She has beautiful children, but Leslie Jones fits right into this damn picture. So how do you comfort your children after they hear you say some shit like that? What do you tell your absolutely beautiful girls after they hear you refer to a beautiful black woman that looks exactly like them as Grape Ape? How do you sleep at night knowing the damage that you've done to your own girls? And I'm not done. Listen to what else she had to say.
So for me, stop talking about this as back to slavery day, because if we went back to slavery, just like myself, Leslie, you would be in the field. And as a 6-foot woman that's actually built like a man, you would probably be working alongside the oxen.
Is this you here towering over Clarence Thomas? But you have the nerve to point out Leslie Jones' height? The self-hatred is real. You can tap dance all you want, but there is nothing that you could say or do that's going to make them ever accept you. And when they discard you like the piece of trash that you are, don't come running back. Go get yourself some help and take a very hard look at what you're doing to your girls. Because to them, we all look alike, and they could very easily be confused with Leslie Jones, a beautiful black woman.